When you have OCD, one thing that you're going to need to do is inform your loved ones that you have real close contact with about the disorder. So let's go back to the whiteboard so I could explain how to tell them, why you should tell them, and what you should tell them. Because if you have somebody you live with, a husband, a wife, mom, dad, maybe a roommate or something, somebody that you're in close contact with, you're going to need to let those people know a little bit about OCD. And let me explain why. Now, because I know what you're thinking. Well, I got to keep it to myself. I don't want anybody to know. This is my issue. This isn't their issue. I understand that, but I want you to think about something as you're going on this journey about why it's really important to let people in close contact with you know what's going on. The first reason why it's important is you may do certain things, so they're going to know why certain things happen. Okay? So if you have something that you're really orderly when it comes to your OCD, or some people can't get out of their room for a while, it's good to tell people that you're close to what's going on with you. Kind of explain that OCD is happening, and that's what we'll get to in the next one. But they're going to need to know why certain things are happening, so that way they don't get too mad at you, right? They don't judge you too much and think that you don't love them. When people don't understand that you have something going on, their first reaction might just be, oh, they're always mad, or oh, they don't love me, or oh, they're just a terrible person, right? So if you can inform them that, I have this disorder called OCD, I'm going to therapy, I'm going to treatment, that's going to help you tell them and help them help you in multiple different ways. Okay, so the first reason it's really important is they'll know why you do certain things. Okay? Second reason that when you go over it is you're going to need to explain to them what it is. This is why it's important, right? So they'll need to know why you're doing certain things, right? You're not just doing it because you don't like them or you're crazy, right? You're doing it because you have a disorder. But you're going to also then need to explain what and how OCD works so they can kind of get a little bit of an understanding. It's not that they need to necessarily read 1,000 books or go to therapy themselves, although if it's somebody that you're really close to, a spouse, they might want to think about therapy. But explaining to them how it works. I would say probably the easiest thing to explain is the OCD cycle, right? So you can just explain to them that you get an obsession, and then you get fear or anxiety, and then you do a compulsion, and then you feel better. Okay, you can explain the cycle. You can also explain to them that it usually attaches to things that they love and that you love and value, right? So if you really care about your kids, it's very possible OCD attaches to your kids or your religion or even to them, right? So explain what OCD is by showing them the cycle. And I would say also explain that it usually attaches to values, okay? Values are things that you love. That way, one, it might make them feel good if the OCD attaches to them, but really they need to understand that, look, if you have an obsession about hurting somebody or about never wanting to go to church or going to your religious place, that's not because you don't value it. It's because you do value it. Remember, we're scared about things that are close to us. So the fact that OCD is attaching to that is actually the opposite of what it seems like. Right? A lot of times if you're religious and you tell people that you're scared to go to church or that you might go to hell, they're going to think, well, that means that you really don't care. No. It's the opposite. Okay? So you can explain it to them. I would also recommend certain books or videos. A lot of people have shown different Instagram clips and TikTok clips of people, myself or just other people that they like to kind of show, look, this is OCD, right? So you explain it to them, what it is, how it attaches to values, show them the OCD cycle, but then give them some books and some other things. I have some links on my website and on my YouTube below. My wife and I wrote a book from my wife's standpoint as well, so it can kind of help the supportive staff. But really, they don't need to be an expert, but they need to understand for a few different reasons. Again, the first reason is why you may do certain things. Then you have to explain what it is, and they could get some books to help them. The next reason is when it comes to compulsions. And this is really, really important. In fact, out of everything, this is the most important part of the journey when it comes to your loved ones. Your loved ones are often going to be a big source of compulsions, of reassurance. Okay? So they will often do things that they think are helping you, but in reality, they're hurting you. So for example, with me and my wife, I would go to her constantly for reassurance. Hey, I'm a good husband. I'm a good father. I'm a good Christian. I'm a good worker, right? I'm not going to get fired. I'm not going to do that. And she would, at the beginning, reassure me and say, Jonathan, listen, don't worry. You're going to be fine. You're a good person. Yeah, that would help me in the short run. But when you know what OCD is, you explain it. Obsession, fear, compulsion, compulsion, compulsion. That reassurance in the context of OCD is a compulsion. So now, with my wife, understanding how OCD works, she knows why I do things. She knows what OCD is, and that attaches to my values, so I'm not a bad husband or a bad father. By learning and looking at videos, she now understands that there are certain things she needs to avoid. So if I go to her now in a real stupor, right, I'm really worked up, and I say, look, I'm not a bad worker, right? I'm not a bad husband, a bad spouse. When she can tell it's OCD, do you know what she does? She turns around and she walks away. Because she plays a part in the OCD cycle, right? She is a compulsion for me. So by her understanding it, she knows what OCD is. She knows why I do things. She can then limit the compulsions and help me, which ultimately helps her, right? The less I do things, it's going to help her out more. The last reason it's important to let your close contact people know, and this is optional, but it's something that I have done, is they can help you with exposures in the future. I had some people at work that I was very close to that I had a feeling would probably notice a little bit of a difference in me as I was going through therapy. So what I did was I actually asked them if they would play a role in my OCD therapy, and I incorporated them into exposures. So I had to tell them, explain what it was so they knew why I was acting the way that I was acting. I didn't give them books or videos, but I basically just said, look, this is my issue. This is why I do certain things. This is what and how OCD works. This thing called a compulsion is what I kind of rely on you for. So can you do this? Actually, at work, I had a couple people I was close to that would write me emails in a way that would trigger me. So that way I could kind of sit through some of the anxiety. And, with my therapist, I worked with a really good way of kind of doing an exposure with people I worked with. Now, you may feel uncomfortable doing this, and that's okay. You don't need to do this, but the most important thing are the first four, right? They're going to need to know. The reason you should tell people you're in close contact with is because you're going to start acting differently. They should know why, right? You're not a bad person. They need to know what it really is, just so they can kind of understand it, okay? That it is going to attach to your values, and that's okay. That's not because you're a bad person. In all honesty, it's because you're such a good person that it's attaching to your fears. They, maybe would need some books or videos to kind of help them explain the context. But really, when it comes to compulsions, that's the big key. And if you feel like it, you can get them in on your exposures. Okay, so this is step 3 when it comes to starting your OCD journey. As always, everybody, you got to put in the work. This is hard. Next week, we'll talk a little bit more about the final step when it comes to your OCD journey and what you need to do. So stay strong.